Welcome to the HBS Medicaid School Program Documentation System. This training video is for school psychologists and will explain how to use our MSP documentation system. Psychology services are the easiest service to document in the MSP program. The MSP program requires therapists to document their ETR testing time and their IEP direct service time. Most psychologists do not provide IEP direct services, so psychologists are usually only documenting their ETR testing time. With that said, there are many features in our program that are based on direct services and therefore psychologists would probably not use. Let me start out by showing you how to set up a new student, how to add a new student to our program. I'll select Add New Student. The yellow are the required fields, white are optional fields. So I'm going to set up a student with the last name of Jones. Press Tab. Enter the first name of Sam. Press Tab. Date of birth. Whenever you're entering a date of birth in our system, enter the 2-digit month, the 2-digit day, 2-digit year. So 11/12/11, when you hit Tab, turns into 11/12/2011, November 12th, 2011. It's going to default to the district of residence for the district you're in. If in fact that student is the resident of another district, you would delete here. You could key in the first few letters of the district you're looking for. Press the magnifying glass, and it'll bring up the districts that begin with the letters LA. In this case, we're going to choose Lancaster City School District. ICD-9 requires one ICD-9. There's room to put two ICD-9s. If I choose the magnifying glass and leave the field blank, it's going to show me common psychology ICD-9 codes. We're filtering by service type. If we would like to see all codes, choose the all codes and click on filter. It brings up all 14,000 codes. If you'd like to do a search for a specific code, key in a keyword and hit filter, and it will show you all the codes that have the word in them. In this case, we keyed in the word problem. It comes up with problem codes, and I show you that because here's a very, very common code that psychologists use for their ETR testing. Keep in mind that the ICD-9 is a treatment code and should answer the question, why am I serving this student? In most cases, V40.0 would fit well with school-based services. Middle name is not required. Name suffix not required. A student ID is not required. You're not required to key in a social security number. And once again, you could choose another ICD-9 if you would like, but for psychologists, that V40.0 works really well. This is an option to add to your caseload. Since your services are usually provided to a student and then they move on, you don't usually see a student the entire year. Many psychologists do not use this feature. This non-IEP, non-ETR, this will allow you to document for a student who is not part of the ETR. Maybe you're doing some intervention or something of that nature, and you want to keep the same type of notes. You still could set a student up and keep the same type of notes. By clicking this box, this would let us know that they are not being tested as part of the ETR and they're not on an IEP, so we would not want to bill those students. So we would save at this point, and now it takes us into this person, Sam Jones. Any claims that you have keyed in would be listed here. We have not keyed any claims in, so nothing shows up. And from this point, I want to take you back to the main menu. I want to get out of Sam Jones. I could go right here to this house, go back to the main menu. Modifying an existing student, if we wanted to modify Mr. Jones, we would just key in his last name, search all, and here are the Jones, and there's our Sam. And we could pull up and make any modifications to that student, and then resave that student. It would take you back to entering service documentation. I'm going to go back to the main menu. This is the feature you'll use most often. Add new service documentation. Click here. Who do you want to enter it for? We want to enter it for the Jones student that we just set up. There's Sam. Once again, takes you to this screen where you can choose Enter Service Documentation. And this is what we need completed. It's going to default to the location of the service being the school. Tab through that, it would actually default to the ICD-9 that we pre-set up with that student. We don't need a second ICD-9. Date of service, once again, 2-digit month, 2-digit day, 2-digit year, or you can actually use the calendar out to the side to choose your day, or you could even use a couple of the shortcuts. T and tab would put today's date, and Y and tab puts in yesterday's date. I'm going to go ahead and use T for today's date. My start time, I don't need an AM or PM. I do not need a colon, 900, and tab would be 9 AM. And let's say the service was completed at 10, 1000, and tab would put the 10 AM. The procedure code, lots of procedure codes that the state has put in the program. Basically, one that you're going to be using is this 96101 for an annual eval, initial eval, or an annual eval. A lot of these other codes you would not be using. These are some non-billable codes if you wanted to document for some of those non-billable activities, a student being absent or something like that. But in most cases, a psychologist uses the 96101. Then it's a matter of just saying what you did. I administered and scored, this test and this test and that test. It puts it down in the case note for you. And you probably will not use a treatment bank, so there's not very often you would actually use that feature. It's not a direct service, so you probably would not use progress. Group size is almost always 1. Put your initials and save it. And here's your claim. And any claims that you keyed in under that student would show up under that student. Let's go ahead and return to main menu. Modify delete documentation. If we wanted to pull up that claim for Mr. Jones, we would choose Sam. Once again, takes us back to here where you could modify or delete that claim. As long as the status is blank, you'll be able to modify, delete it. About a month after you document the service, we will take this claim and start processing it. You will see processed under the status, and you'll be able to review and print that claim at that point. Let's go ahead and go back to main menu. So we added a new student, we modified a new student, we added new service documentation, we modified existing service documentation. Create mass absent, probably not something that a psychologist would use. This is more for direct services where they were scheduled on a specific day and there was a snow day or an absent day. You can create a mass absent for every student that was scheduled for that day. Switch school districts. If you work for multiple school districts, you could switch school districts by clicking here or here. It would simply ask you what district you want to switch to. Daily therapy schedule, something also that probably a psychologist would not use. This is designed for those therapists that see the same students every week at the same time. IP procedure method bank, once again geared towards direct service, probably wouldn't be used by a psychologist. Change your password. The system will make you periodically change your password every 90 days. But if you want to go and change it voluntarily yourself, this is where you would do it. Print review reports. If you wanted to see the services that you provide to a specific student, we could key in a date range. 090112 is what I'm going to use through 093012. And then we choose our Jones student. And that was Sam. And we print the report for him, and it should show that one claim that we had entered for Sam. There were other claims that would show that for your students. Once again, not something that you would probably have a need very often to go and print reports like this, mainly designed for direct services where they're printing reports on a regular basis. We go back to the main menu here so we get out of where we were at. Submit a question to HBS. This is a great way for you to ask a question or give us a software suggestion. Give us your subject, your return email, and your question. Save it, and we will respond promptly to that inquiry. Let's return back to main menu. Software user instructions. The instructions line by line are listed here. I encourage you to print those off and have those handy. They give you line by line instructions on how to do every feature in our software. MSP reference material. We're going to be putting a lot of different reference material out here. We just added this feature, so there's not much out here, but we're going to put a lot of data out here, frequently asked questions, things like that, to help as you have questions with the program or the software. Here's another ICD-9 lookup code. You don't have to get in a student. I could do that same lookup that I did before and do search, and it will show me all those problem codes. Once again, that V40.0 is a very common code that we see being used. We'll return to main menu. And the final one, keyboard shortcuts. And these are just a few of the keyboard shortcuts. F2 is the save button. Down here is that Y and T for dates that we talked about earlier. And then, of course, the logout button. And once again, over here, switch districts, the main menu, and exit is also here. We are doing we just released our version 4.0. If you would want to view the release notes and see what we had added to that new version. Once again, a lot of these enhancements are based on direct service documentation. And that's it. So take note of our phone number here. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Also, don't hesitate to use this option to send us questions. And as I said earlier, documentation for psychologists a lot easier than some of the other services that are documented. Basically checking a few boxes, what you did, initialing it time in, time out. So if you have any questions, notify us. Other than that, have a great school year, and thanks for viewing the training program.